flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you all for coming. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Allen? Here. Mrs. Kice? Here. Mr. McGibbon?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Allery?
Here.
And Mr. Osterley?
Do we have any call to the public?
No, sir.
All right. Moving right along. The superintendent.
Okay, so in the packet, we have governing board meeting dates for 2022-23. So we had talked about moving meetings to Tuesdays after the new year, which would give us more time to finalize the agenda and give time for us to answer questions and stuff on Monday to better prepare for Tuesday's meetings. So there's the calendar, proposed calendar dates. They are Mondays in July through November and December 5th, and then January 10th and February 7th. We also moved some because of the holiday, being that like Christmas break, we did move that December date because right when we come back, that January date would be that Monday after a holiday. So there is the proposed calendar.
October 18th.
I thought we were moving a bunch to Tuesday.
They are, so all the January through June are Tuesdays.
Okay.
And October, huh?
And October is a Tuesday because of fall break.
Gotcha.
So the 17th is the Monday after fall break, so that we made it for the Tuesday on October 18th.
So give everybody a day, an extra day to get some questions answered if need be, huh?
Yes. It gives us another day to get all the agenda items in and budgetary items that need to be updated and finalized at that time.
And just, February 7th is the first Tuesday, so we moved it up in the month.
We moved that one up in the month, and we did it because of,
We were gonna do Valentine's the 14th.
wait, let me see. Yeah, because February 14th would be Valentine's Day on that Tuesday. So we moved it to, Monica, should it be, oh yeah, it's the 7th, the week before on a Tuesday. Prior to.
And the March one is due to, spring break.
Okay.
Okay. So what we'll do is, we'll submit it for next board meeting for approval. Okay, but we wanted to just let you know so you could check out the dates and make sure it was okay. Next thing we need to do is look at, we need approval for the 301 payments for 21-22 so that we can get it in with the next payroll to have it done before the end of June.
It's our shortest consent agenda for the 301 ones. You guys should have gotten the 5-page thing that discusses it.
No, that's actually the plan for next
Next year.
year, and that'll go on the June 13th board meeting. Today in consent is just the, parts for the final payment for this fiscal.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
You're ahead of one meeting.
I knew that. I'm a big hearing.
We
Do you need a motion?
haven't-
I need a motion for
We
consent. I
haven't
move
seen
to
it.
approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just a couple of questions. Almost everybody was the same except for two people. Is there any reason why the two people were different?
They didn't meet the standard or the qualification for the full payout. There were certain aspects of the year that they failed to complete.
Okay. So our total 301 disbursements this year are a little, on average, at least a little over 12 grand per teacher.
So they got the first half, they got the first half, first
Nothing to squeeze at.
December, and that's when we hire teachers and we tell them our 301 monies are not built into their salaries. And so we can give a ballpark figure that it'll be anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 per semester is what it's, because that money fluctuates depending on the number of teachers that we have, the number of teachers that we have who participate in 301 funds.
Does that make it harder to, in the hiring process, not be able to give them like an absolute figure? Well, I know when we compare our teacher salaries to other districts, we lump in the 301 funds to make us more competitive.
Right, and that's where we are competitive, but if you look at it and don't know that the 301 monies are additional to
You get
the
any
posted
pushback
salary.
for potential teachers?
We do, but when we explain it, and the reason why we don't put it into salaries is because the funding that we receive for 301 monies fluctuate. So let's say a lot of districts either say this is gonna be the max and you bank the rest and use the rest for other funding, but what we've done is we give all the teachers the 301 monies and we don't keep any for our financial reserve. Because what some districts did do is hold back some 301 monies, but then they used it as their signing bonus for this school year, which is still their money that they're earning, but it looks different when you have districts out there saying, we're gonna give a $1,500 signing bonus to every employee that signs on, but it's out of this bucket of funding that we give to the teachers up front. So when we just have to explain it to them, because it could be more or it could be less.
I love that we give it all to the teachers, but I guess it's just something to keep in mind moving forward as it gets harder and harder to be a competitive employer. We want to give you everything.
They need to know that.
Everything.
And they do.
Everybody.
When they meet
Even
with
if-
Christina, we lay out what the salary is, what the benefits coverage is, what the 301 monies could be. They look at where the steps salary, if they have experience, it fluctuates as well, so we show them that guide. Benefits, I did say that, what else do we have? We let them know if they want to sponsor clubs or tutorials, that extra money that they can make per semester. So we let them know total of what could be earned for signing on. So a lot of times it's, then they're like, okay, makes sense.
How many other districts are given like a sign-on bonus?
Well, the larger districts that, like TUSD, I believe is giving 5,000 signing bonus. Yeah,
It's one time and it's not gonna be every year.
well, because it's coming out of the ESSER funds for retention
Oh, okay.
that they wrote into their ESSER grants.
Signing bonuses going towards retention.
Yeah, retaining teachers, so
Yeah,
you
but you're not
sign,
retaining them, or everyone's getting
everybody that
it
came
to
back to sign
re-sign.
and
Oh,
to
okay.
re-sign their contract is getting that one-time monies.
Where is that 301 money go?
No, new teachers are.
It goes to teachers, but it also is, when you're a larger district, you have
Yeah.
a lot more money to a lot of wiggle room.
Sure.
And districts do their 301 monies very different. We still do it where teachers have to sign on to committees and still do that. Other districts, it's a little bit tied to your performance pay, and then you collaborate on Wednesdays and you submit your collaboration notes and you get your money. So districts have committees who have lobbied to do it differently. And because we are small, we do need our teachers to help with these 301 committees to help operate the school, which in turn, they have to
And
sign off that
they chose
need.
that, the 301 committee set up all of these hoops.
Yes.
They have to jump. I think that really, I think that's something for us to brag about, that our teachers all
Well,
want the school to
the
benefit as
301
much as
plan has to
possible.
be approved by 70% of the teachers
Yeah.
before it can even go to the board for approval. So,
But that's what they're willing to do because the school benefits the most, really.
And that's where we talk about, compliance versus commitment. Because a lot of teachers in other districts, they're filling out the form for compliance purposes, but is it actually making a difference or not?
Steve, did you say the 301 committee has made their proposal for next year?
It's on
Yeah.
June's board meeting.
Okay.
June 13th.
June 13th board meeting is their proposal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only 6 pages, but big print.
Double space?
So you'll see.
So we have a motion second, so.
Yep.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Kice? Yeah. Mr. McGivern?
Yes.
Mr. Ellery?
Yes.
And Mr. Osterly?
Yes. All right, with that, we get to go into our study session. We are going to talk about the governing board goals. Very exciting. But before we do that, on your way out, be sure to check out our bright and shiny buses, right? Picked them up Thursday last week.
4 of the 6 are up front. Our special travel bus is for our long field trips is in the barn, and our sped unit will be here middle of June.
So, and the guy even said that the exhaust coming out of these newer diesels is cleaner than the current air. Which,
It's
not
cleaner
knowing
than-
anything about diesel,
Then what?
It's cleaner than the air going in most major cities. I've heard
Yeah.
that of most
Oh.
semis the same.
That's good for the car.
it's the days of the turning on your recycle when you're behind a bus.
That's great. And the windows are tinted. That's
And all of them have AC.
Times have changed.
That's sunshine.
We have windows now.
We're gonna disconnect the air conditioning.
It builds character, right?
Yeah, that's right. They're desert kids, they gotta learn. Okay, so we've been talking about, right, we've got, the superintendent goals and all that stuff. We haven't really addressed, we've talked about it a lot, but never really did it. So I'm hoping we can at least maybe get a template for some school board goals or governing board goals. I don't know if any of you guys surfed. I mean, there's enough stuff out there that's published that you certainly don't have to reinvent the wheel. One of the things that Roxanne and I discussed was having ASBA come down and help us, so we thought we'd take a crack at it first.
Have who come down?
ASBA,
Okay.
either via Zoom or in person. But we thought we'd, see how far we get. Also, Michelle Phillips, of the Greater Green Valley Community Foundation, is really good at putting this kind of stuff together. And I talked to her, so she'd be more than happy to help review, tweak, comment, maybe even come in if need be. And if we have to then also tweak the superintendent goals to kind of help make everything jive, we can do that too. Because I think they're all meant to be living documents, right? So the one that I like the best, it needs, our flavor on it, is this one from Lewistown, Montana, thanks to Uncle Google. And it's got 6 goals, maybe, yeah. And some of them definitely need some additions. For example, the facilities section. We need to add the secure environment, right? Since that's kind of top of mind right now, even though it's implied in some of the stuff. So, Roxanne, what do you think you want to start? You want me to just kind of say what these goals are and then take it from there?
It's up to you guys. So there's chart paper here, there's markers. So if somebody wants to be the recorder and you want to brainstorm.
Okay. I'll just
so
tell you
I
really quick what these.
We're here to just be part of,
Great.
listen
That's
to the dialogue.
It's exactly what we need.
And you
Yeah.
guys could just take it away. So however you
Yeah.
deem is best.
Let's hear those. Let's go.
So I'll just give you the quick 6, just really high level, right? So the first one, goal area 1 is measurable student achievement. right? Kind of already have that. The next one is facilities. To make sure that they're safe, address the needs of the students, and then of course we build in there the whole safety program and things like that. The community and parental engagement, kind of self-explanatory. Threw this one in here for Albert, the technology. To keep a technology infrastructure current and sound, implement steps to leverage better teaching and learning experiences, etc. 5 is highly qualified staff, and they're in no uncertain order. And goal number 6 is financial management responsibility. Near as I can tell, it pretty much covers most of the things that we've talked about. I don't know if you want to make a copy of this.
I want to say
Again, it's
something real quick. I was thinking about Rich while I was looking up some other school board goals. And this one has a similar layout that I think you would appreciate, or kind of what you were wanting to get out of the district goals. How it lists, like, this is our goal, and then it has like sub-points under each goal is the strategic objective. Like these are how we're gonna do it, this is how we're gonna measure it. And instead of having multiple documents that have all of that, it's kind of combined with like minor bullet points inside the goals.
Especially for us, because they have to do those certain, I don't even remember
Like the
names of it.
LAPs and
The LAPs and the
SIAPs.
SIAPs, and that's required by the state, but we don't really have to address that. That's more down, I think, more granular, right? Down at the,
But they should draw off of
yeah,
the goals of the board is
Like the master.
I mean, Steve, I like what you just laid out.
yeah.
I mean, I would put some different priorities.
Well, yeah, they're not necessarily in any certain
You
order.
know, I actually participated in the 6 webinar series on school boards put on by Heritage Foundation over the past month.
Oh, wow.
Fascinating, excellent. But one of the statements in there that really triggered me was what they deemed to be the absolutely unqualified signal objectives that every board ought to have. And there's 3 of them.
Okay.
Now, there's a lot of sub things that you would put under those things, just like you said, Kayla. But one was academic excellence.
Yep.
That was the number one. It says if that's not the number one goal of your school district, then there's something wrong. Number 2 is financial accountability, responsibility, and the integrity of your financial statements.
Yep.
Basically, the fiscal responsibility. And the 3rd thing was none of the other matters if you don't have a safe school for the kids to learn in. And those were the 3. Now, you can put a whole bunch of things underneath every one of those as to how we want to, achieve those specific goals. But those were 3 that were number 3 on my list.
Incoming message.
And that safety thing is in the facilities from that. I think that the highly qualified staff to me is part of academic
I
excellence.
agree, yeah.
It could also be under the safety thing too, the highly qualified staff.
But the shorter the number, the better.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And then,
I
like you
think,
said, we can expand on.
yeah.
But our staff as a board is.
Did they give you any handouts or anything, or is there?
No, this was all, I'm trying to figure out how everybody could do this if you wanted to look at it, because it was pretty good stuff.
I wonder.
And it got into open meeting laws and some of the stuff that the ASBA does, but
What was the foundation called?
Heritage Foundation.
Heritage. Okay, I bet they can.
You gave it to me. You gave it to me. Oh, it's this, okay.
Those are extras.
Oh, okay.
I honestly think we need to take it bite by bite, start off with student achievement.
Yeah, I've got no problem with having the 3 and then, adding the sub things, because it pretty much covers, near as I can tell. It also covers transportations. We'll fit it in there. Do you wanna, how would you notes?
I can take notes, but you-
Or do we wanna,
did she put one down there so someone could write on the front?
you won't be able to read mine.
I totally would, but not really standing that much.
Sorry.
Where about you, Ann? You're gonna be our
Okay,
note
want you
taker.
to write on the chart.
Get some colorful markers.
They're all right here. So while Deanna's writing, the first one you said was academic excellence.
Yep.
Would be goal number 1.
Yep.
And then under those, I'm assuming there's gonna be a few bullets, right? Of what that looks
Yeah, I would
like.
offer one, resecure an A rating as a school.
And it should to be really picky here, since that's a district goal. Could we refine our board goals? Like, what are we, non-teachers, non-admin, what are we going to do to secure an A rating? We're not in the classrooms, thankfully. But like, what can we do, administrators, as a board, to get us to an A rating?
Other than provide the school the tools they need to get that done.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of the way our contribution.
Yeah, I was trying to think back to what Shelley said once about, she
Shelley, can you hear us?
she put our scope into really simple terms.
Right.
Years back. We, facilities and,
Because we are not directly hiring and firing anybody. In the classroom.
Right.
To say, okay, that's the person that will accomplish this goal for, but we expect the team to make that happen, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think we're responsible for making the resources available to achieve the goals that we've set. That to me is our responsibility. If it's money, it is money.
Yeah.
So here's one that I read through Walla Walla Public Schools. And the goal 1 is increase student learning and performance. And then it has ensuring high levels of learning for all students is the school board's core mission. To that end, the board has established high expectations for increased student performance as identified by the strategic plan indicator targets. To ensure improved outcomes for all students, the board will. So it says prioritize and focus the efforts and energy on the strategic plan goals and indicators, which will come after this. Regularly monitor student performance trends, which when we present data at the board meetings, hold themselves, the superintendent and staff accountable for improved outcomes, and advocate and support the need for improved learning to internal and external stakeholders. So I kind of like those. There are 5 bullets that are under the increased student learning and performance. So I don't know, based on our conversation, it sounds like. It sounds less wordy than yours. Is kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah, less worries.
Yeah.
I
and
like
it's just-
we set the expectations and hold everyone accountable. I think that fits into our scope of our abilities, you know?
I just want to make sure that what we do is measurable.
Mhm.
And that's, to me, when it says, hold themselves, the superintendent and staff, accountable for improved outcomes. Well, you gotta have some outcomes to know whether you improved.
Here's one, it's really, really similar, they probably could have copied each other in this other school district. Goal 1, increase the level of student achievement for all students throughout the district with a focus on closing the achievement gap, which is just a really long way of saying that. And then under that, the bullet points objectives meet or exceed state and federal standards for all students every year to create rigorous classrooms at all sites which support best instructional practices.
Yeah, as long as we don't say that we simply want to meet the standards of the state, the expected,
Meet or
what's the average,
exceed.
40% or whatever it is, that, to me, that we ought to be shooting far past that. That ought to be our expectation, far exceeding whatever the state standards are.
Yeah, because I don't think we want to model ourselves to mediocrity. But I do think that if we established, like we've talked about, a certain point improvement in the state assessments, whether it be 3 points or 5 points, that we go from 40 to 45, or we go from 38 to 43, or whatever that be, that to me is at least showing progress against the recognized state standard. I think there was another one that I thought was really interesting that can also pull math growth into it. And that's that a high percentage of students, and this was like 80 or 90% of the students, showed growth from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So you can have both of those as very measurable objectives. One against state standards, one just on the student's own progress within the math growth standards.
Yep, I totally agree with that, especially the growth part. So,
Good. That's perfectly makes sense.
yeah, Roxanna and Deanna, if this stuff isn't measurable, let us know, right?
So I'm just wondering, are the governing board goals, the measurable outcomes are usually in the strategic plan that's developed from the governing board goals, not necessarily stated in your governing board goals. You can have the expected outcome, but the actual strategic as measured by and with the increased expectation I've seen it in the strategic plan, not in governing board goals. And I don't know if you saw different in your training.
Well, I saw it in that Nogales thing.
Did
They
they
had
have-
specific point improvement on the board goals in the Nogales school district.
I believe that was the district goals.
Theirs, let me look, because I think theirs were, that's where, the only place I've ever seen them state A rating. Like their goal is to increase all their schools to an A rating. But they didn't have as measured by, like the measures that we use, the state assessment or NWA, it wasn't in that actual document. Do you have that one there?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is back 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But it has Nogales Unified School District schools will earn an A letter grade as defined by the State Board of Education. NUSD will increase the number of students who are proficient or highly proficient in ELA and math by 5% as measured by, this was AZ Merit.
And those are the governing board goals.
These are district goals. I don't know, what's the difference between a district goal and a governing board goal?
Yeah, so the governing board goals support the district goals. The strategic plan is based on your district goals.
Okay, but if we say that the number one goal of this board is academic excellence, what do we mean by that? I don't think we can just say that's our goal, Superintendent Rico, and you do all the things underneath
So
that.
it means like what Kelly was saying, that your level of support for curriculum, assessment.
So I have collaborate and support the efforts and resources to achieve the A rating or whatever. We have nothing to do with the A rating. You guys do this. It's your jobs. It's our job to give you the resources you need to do that.
I keep going back to that's our job, is to support you to make those district goals happen. To give you the right resources, the right facilities, the right security, the right, basic tool chest that you need to do it.
Because from your,
What's yours?
That's the goal.
from the district goals, from the board goals, then we can work on the detailed district goals, which will guide our strategic plan with the specific measurable objectives.
Why would
like
the
you're
district
saying.
goals be different than the board goals?
Because the board goals are general, the district goals have to be specific to all the indicators on how we get to that board goal. The board goals are one thing, the district goals are the other.
They should align, they should be the same
That's
thing.
why it's like a pyramid, it's a tier.
But
where-
we're coming at it from one direction, you guys are coming at it from another direction.
And you want to meet at the top.
Exactly. We're working towards the same thing.
So from the board goals, go the district goals that have our strategic plan. The
So
specific
what you're
measurable
saying is that
objectives.
it's sufficient for us just to say academic excellence is the number one board goal. And then we're gonna wait to see the strategic plan and the district goals to see if they align with that. And that's where we would see the metrics and the measurables that.
Because it would say you're gonna prioritize and focus your efforts and energy on our strategic plan, goals, and indicators.
Which would be you holding us accountable to, like the columns that
The
you'd like us to
5%
add.
increase,
Where are
the,
you guys at with this when we do our district plan we're gonna do these check-ins at these dates? And you hold the district accountable, which then they'll hold us accountable for reaching our deadlines and goals that we need to achieve. So it's accountability, holding us accountable for what we gotta get done.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we know what you're being
Yeah.
held accountable to do.
Well, Rich, in all fairness, normally, we have our board goals first, and then they come up with the district goals.
That's
Okay, how can we do this? But we kind of have not made district goals or board goals in a long time, so they were, kind of making stuff up. Not for nothing,
Yeah.
but trying to read our minds. So once we have our board goals, theirs has to align with ours.
so we
They don't
could-
get to
yeah.
deviate from it.
So from the board goals, like today, we could establish board goals, and then we could collectively go to the specifics of the district goals.
Okay.
Right? But I know we've been trying to not have so many documents, which is hard to do. You know what I mean?
Recreate the wheel here.
Because it is a pyramid type, you don't, we want to be able to put it on our website, governing board members, here's the governing board goals. Continental School District, here are the district goals, hence moves into the school's strategic plan, or the district strategic plan with the school goals and indicators.
So each level gets more detailed.
Yes.
So in that case, you focus on the main aspects that are important. Right? Academic rigor and excellence, one. Facilities, top-notch facilities that support that are safe and comfortable and adequate, and the right size classrooms, things like that.
Well, what Rich said was fiscal management
Oh, yeah,
and
the third would be the budget,
responsibility, right? And
right.
then the
That would
safe
be
and
third.
orderly.
In my mind, those three things,
What we go to
I mean,
fiscal
with some
management.
specifics underneath, cover just about everything.
So it was, well, the way Rich had said was academic excellence, that's 2 was sound fiscal accountability, and then 3rd was safe school. But you want to flip flop, Drew?
So I'm not taking any particular order. I'm just saying those are the 3 ideas that I have that kind of cover, in my mind, cover just about everything.
Well, I
For
think
the most
as a parent, when you look at the board goal, I think if we put safety over
Oh, sure.
finance, do you know what I mean, in that order of.
If you don't have to say to
academic
campus, they can care less
excellence?
about your budget.
Right.
Right, that's the last thing I want. Absolutely.
But-
Yeah, no, yeah, you can put it in whatever, a safe, secure, working campus, I don't know what you want to call it, but that,
Oh, hold on. I just read something that's cute.
And then, when you look at our mission and our vision, right? Our board goals and our district goals should align with our mission statement.
Here we go, safe and orderly learning environment.
There you
District
go, 'cause that
149
aligns.
will provide a safe, nurturing, and orderly environment conducive for learning to occur in all classrooms.
Safe and orderly learning environment.
The strategic one was talking more about how we're implementing it, how you've got the crisis committee or whatever they're called.
This is a pretty short and sweet one, District 149, wherever they were. But number 1, academic achievement. We will ensure our students meet or exceed academic standards. And 2, enhance technology. We will enhance its use of technology to ensure our students, just real short and sweet.
I don't even think that needs to be in it. I think that's the job of,
I think that falls under so many.
that's every tier below it, in my opinion, the technology.
Well, it fits into everything else.
Oh, I agree, absolutely.
I don't think it necessarily needs its own.
It just needs its own bullet point.
No.
So Rich, when we talk about, okay, so are we ready to do bullets under the increased student learning in the first one? What did you write?
Rigor and excellence. I was just writing ideas as they were talking. I'll do another page.
Can you read them?
Responsible for making resources available, the tools that the school needs to accomplish that. Measuring NWA map growth, student growth data from start to end of school year, monitoring state growth of students, collaborate and support the efforts of the district and school to achieve an A rating.
Let me put them here so that they can read them and see.
You can rewrite them too.
Yeah, that sounds like a good recap. Ms. Biel? So can you read this one? Can you see it? Just so you can. Does it capture?
But I think some of those things are in the district goals that we've already gone through.
But I think this, I really like, because this doesn't have the specific measurable 5%, 3% increase that we talk about.
Right.
That will fall into our district goal, will be to increase student achievement by whatever
If we can
percentage.
establish this, and then you will provide the board with the actual metrics of
Yes.
how we're going to gauge success, I think that's fine.
And
Because I like this, where the way you stated this, collaborate and support the efforts of the district and school to achieve an A rating.
I agree.
That's our ultimate goal, right? To increase, and then responsible for making resources available, which is what you'll do, measuring NWA macro student growth data from start to end of school year. So that's again our formative assessments, and when we do our board reports and we talk about monitoring state growth of students, which is the state assessment.
I think that sort of blends into number 2. kind
So
of.
we could make it 1 here.
Yeah.
And then collaborate and support the efforts of the district and school to achieve an A rating.
Oh, yeah,
So then,
pretty quick, yeah.
if we can, which one is it? Okay, good. Because if we can do the same thing for goal 2 and 3, and then we can start to look at the district goal and how we're gonna meet these with measures, right? And then we could maybe combine it into 2 short documents. But it'll be 3 bullets.
You're saying this is something that you want on the website as bullet points? Like 1, 2, and 3, each one has 2 or 3 bullet points?
And that's when I go to other district websites and see board goals, they're usually listed by 1 to 5 goals, or like you were saying, 3 or 4, with some specific bullets, 2 to 3 bullet points underneath each one. So that when anybody comes to our district website, they can see governing board goals, here's our governing board members, and these are the 3 goals.
people can print ours off and take to their meeting.
Yes. And then, then we can have a link to, when they click on the school and the district, we can see our district goals.
All right, so we have the academics, we have the
Now we're on the safe,
facilities
secure,
or finance, which one are we on?
facilities. Safe, secure, and orderly learning environment. Do you like how that's worded?
Safe.
Or just safe and orderly.
Safe and orderly learning environment.
It's in a few words.
Or safe and orderly environment?
Yeah.
Safe and orderly learning environment, which,
Because we're about learning, teaching and learning.
yeah, facilities, security, even technology falls into there. We will provide all resources available to ensure that our students have a safe and orderly environment in which to learn.
One of the things, obviously, school safety's kind of been in the news lately. And I'm looking forward to discussion at the board meeting with regard to this. And I know we've done some remarkable things in what we're doing here. One of the things that was also brought up was there are some quite professional firms that do security audits of a school. That determine, and they can look at, they come and they look at your school and they're thinking of all these things that are going on at the other schools where these shootings are occurring and what is it that a school can put in place in order to limit to the maximum extent possible those things happening. I think it's something that we ought to think about. I don't know what the cost.
Absolutely, even just from a PR point of view.
Yeah.
They try to break down the system, do they not? That's their job, to try and find the weaknesses.
So one thing from my banking days, we should not advertise all security measures we have in place because that's just showing people.
That's why we're very
How to
protective of
I think-
our
you don't
plan that our
necessarily-
emergency committee does. Remember how we talked about that? We're not
We're not
gonna post it
advertising
anywhere.
where our entries are and all that.
That's why it's an allowable topic for executive session.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But perhaps a town hall meeting would be very cathartic for the community. I've been reached out to, nothing too extensive yet, but I'm gonna email you guys and tell you all of my ideas that I have. So I think providing
Which
a
is good,
platform.
Like in August, like in the next coming months, I was saying.
Well, in a letter we wrote, Steve and I were discussing, we'd like to have it before school starts, so probably at the end of July before we come, so that way we can tell the parents not all of the secure thing because we don't want it out there, like you said, but to let them know these are the things that this is what our teachers are trained on, this is what our staff is trained on, this is what we would do, this would be our steps.
Generality.
Yes, and then take their feedback and things so that we can continue on in the following weeks as we prepare for school to start to modify and adjust, because they'll have great ideas too.
When you read the first bullet,
We will provide all resources available to ensure all students have a safe environment in which to learn.
so going back to, like you're saying, safety audit or what it was.
Security audit.
Security audit.
It's called.
Um,
I could look into some of the, if they have a list of firms that are doing these sorts of things, and you look into what they cost.
I know that Embry-Riddle University, at least 3 years ago, had a grant with the federal government to go out and do this.
So
And
maybe-
they have, law enforcement professionals, they have a Navy SEAL on staff that actually go through and do an audit. So I can look at it at Embry-Riddle and see.
Okay. So they do it, Embry-Riddle does it with this group of people?
Yeah.
They do,
No, Embry-Riddle has hired
okay.
this former police officer, this former Navy SEAL, and they go through and they'll come in and they'll kick our doors.
So when you
Punch
look
out
at
our
maybe,
windows.
it says ID
No.
security audit, it could be ID security audit, it would be upgrading or additional cameras. So I don't know.
It could be a lot of.
Yeah,
things.
so the resources, like where that says, we will provide all resources, available. I think that falls into the security audit, the increase the cameras, the whatever we decide. But I don't know if that would be listed. So that first bullet is great for the board goal. And then we could still add, i.e. those few things, but then in the district
We
goal.
could maybe refine out what resources available, like, we're gonna do everything to keep someone like Albert on staff because the internet is the most dangerous place in the world. And a large part of his job is making sure our Chromebooks are used appropriately. Working with the community to have a full-time school resource officer on campus all the time.
I think that's
big.
That's huge, because just my personal opinion, looking back at the last week or two, you can monitor all you want. In terms of talking security, I'm talking people on campus doing bad things security. You can have all the cameras in the world, but if someone's not there to take care of the problem, you're just still monitoring.
So is that the only bullet that we need under this goal too? Does that state it all, or can you think of?
I think that's a personal issue.
I think that's so much at the forefront right now. That,
That's part of that.
I mean, when you talk about a safe learning environment, I mean, I'm thinking of Uvalde, and I'm thinking of.
I think with this actually comes, because you think of the social emotional piece of what our kids need nationwide. And I don't know, like you say, resources says a lot of things to me, that the human resource of having people who can help with these
Even a
social emotional
counselor
learning.
or-
Yes, so I don't know that it needs to be, social emotional learning. Do we need a bullet point under that would mean we're gonna address?
I don't think we need it on this. I just think we need to talk about it in the next couple of months. That's all I'm
But
getting at.
so that would be something that would fall under the district,
Right.
a district goal, right?
Right.
But I don't wanna forget about it, Deanna, so if you wanna just write on there, just the whole, this social emotional, providing resources to address the social emotional needs of our students.
That's where it all starts.
We talked a lot about, like in our conversations with superintendents and stuff on this topic, has been just our mental health system, like we say, and how long it takes to get an intake, or how long it takes to get help when you have grandparents who are needing help, who are raising grandkids, and you have kids who are exhibiting extreme behaviors in kindergarten or first grade, and us trying to turn the behaviors around, but needing additional resources within and in our community. Like, there's counselors who work in our community who are self-providing, and they're booked. Like, Sahuarita has increased their counseling services, but they're at capacity, and you still have to wait,
It's because I think it's in all kinds of industries. I mean, the suicide rate in agriculture is enormous. I mean, when you've got everything on the line, the last couple of years have been truly scary.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it's that way with a lot of industries. It's not, And so resources to tend to that, I think, are spread kind of thin. So that's just the nature of the beast, I guess. But
I was having a conversation with Rita PD today, and told them I feel like this issue is so huge, and the part that falls under the school's responsibility is probably like 5% of it. And that's something I've been working on personally the last week or so, is trying to keep my scope on what we have control of here.
yeah, right here, right now.
But when you talk about safe schools, like, your feeling about your school that you either went to or you should be the safety net, And it should be the last place you think of going to hurt people. But it's just like a church, you know, you feel like those are your safe havens, right? Your schools and your churches, and yet it's hard to fathom why that would be a go-to place for someone to go hurt innocent people, because their experiences obviously in those places have not been
But I think it's
up to
moved,
par.
unfortunately, it's moved to the next level. And when I say that, it's moved to the next level where just putting up security cameras doesn't do it. It does not cut it. Well, you know what? Probably not the time and place to talk about it, but the reality is it's far more than just saying, wow, there's somebody that's gonna do harm, because you need somebody that's gonna take care of that issue. And it's sad that we even have to say that, but it is what it is. You know, it's not.
I'm thinking of that, they're talking about limiting entrances and things of that nature, and I know, you gotta buzz to get in the front door and all that, but I'm also thinking of graduation day. I mean, the gates are wide open, anybody can walk through those gates to attend a sporting event or a graduation or promotion ceremony.
It's the minute you let your guard down, like in Wanda, they had, Deanna was just sharing that it was the day of their awards. In the morning, they had their awards, and all these people coming in and out, families,
They had left already,
and there was one door propped open.
I know, I thought that too. I thought about our events, and are we gonna have to get,
And so these are some of the things that I think a security audit could really identify for us.
because one of the things we were discussing and we were sharing with Ms. Rico today is how our pod doors are open throughout the day. One of the doors to each pod is unlocked. And I was talking to Alfred about it. I said, sometimes we have kids that are going in and out, but too bad we don't have like a door, like a 1, 2, 3 button. So when they come back, they know, oh, my teacher's Miss Greer, that's number 1. They buzz and Miss Greer can, okay, somebody goes and unlocks the door for them. But we have to come up with something, because we don't want to have our pod doors unlocked.
I agree, yeah.
They're only unlocked because of we let the kids go and then they're stuck outside, We need to come up with a plan to have them secure.
Someone else may already have that problem figured out, and so it would be.
Well, Albert had an idea. Because I told him yesterday, I said, we're gonna have to come up with something to make sure that those doors are locked. So,
Okay, good, so we have. Good, we can add to it too, right?
I think that one can be short and sweet, because I think there's so much underneath it that we don't put on there. There's a whole lot to that discussion. Yeah.
Well, that's where you allow it to be short and sweet and make us do the work to make it.
Oh, all the better.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do, yeah. You make it short and sweet and then we do the work based on what you're asking.
We'll figure it out.
Not what we paid for.
Third one's finance, right?
Yes.
do you want it titled Town Fiscal Accountability?
Or fiscal accountability.
And budget.
You can name this any way. Accountability, responsibility, integrity, transparency, you can have them all.
What do you guys want? Because it's your board goal. What sounds good to you? Fiscal management and responsibility?
As an overall, yeah, financial management would be.
Fiscal what, Shelley?
Financial strength.
Financial strength.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Support improving efficiencies and accountability in our financial processes, while reducing, if possible, staff frustration.
So that's what it says.
What's wrong with it?
Finding a good business management person.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't resist.
Oh, boy. Never ending. I could see you smiling, I think. Might be a growl, I'm not sure.
Find ways to improve efficiencies and accountability in our financial processes while reducing, only if possible, staff frustration.
Rita, we get into that?
Find ways to improve efficiencies and accountability in our financial processes.
The one on here, goal 4, through transparent operations, shared accountability, and best practice procedures, the board will maintain sound fiscal stewardship of financial resources consistent with board policies. Or something to that effect.
When you look at it, what do you expect as a complete outsider who's paying taxes to run this place? What would you expect of a school?
So would it be maintain sound fiscal stewardship of financial resources consistent with board policies?
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
I like that.
Maintain.
Yeah, I mean, they're meant to be broad.
Maintain sound fiscal.
stewardship is a good word for that.
I like that.
Because you're taking care of something, you've got to do a good job managing it, taking care of it, not throwing it out the window.
That's what we are, we're stewards. That's how much times.
Maintain sound fiscal
Stewardship.
stewardship.
Of financial resources.
That all includes operating within our means,
Consistent with board policies.
appropriate allocation of funds, things like that, making sure the numbers add up. Make sure we have good buses, right?
Maintain
This is
sound
the shiniest I've ever seen a
fiscal
couple school bus out there.
consistent with board policies.
Yeah.
And then I like where, this says to, monitoring through ongoing fund balance analysis. In addition to a comprehensive district community. That's like, well, that's attitude survey, what does that mean? Like a climate survey?
I think that's more of the how you're gonna do it.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that can go under that, that are probably gonna be part of the district.
So can you just jot them down now so
Well, I
that
mean,
just.
obviously, one of my big things is a clean audit. And clean is, how do you define that? But at a very minimal level, no material weaknesses in annual audits. One of the other things that I think we need is a capital budgeting strategic plan. And I say that because I started thinking about this after we had the whole discussion of school buses. And I think we made the right decision in doing the school buses, but we don't know what we might have to give up in capital budgeting needs in future years or in the next year because we've committed $135,000 per year just to fund this bus lease.
There's, what is the capital the capital outlay?
I think budget.
There's kind of
Capital
a,
budget.
But that's,
no, there was kind of a list that we saw a while back that had kind of
I've got it.
a priority of
Yeah.
little projects and.
Yeah, but that was kind of a
expenditures.
laundry list of the various things we need. It didn't say, we would like to do this within the next 12 months. This is a 24-month kind of priority. This is a 36, so on and so
That
forth.
would be easy to do from the strategic, budget committee, from the budget committee. And how we did that list and now going back to prioritizing for,
So,
your.
immediate-
What are our capital needs and over what time period and as best as we could project the cost? You projected costs on school buses. of what was gonna happen over the next several years.
The capital needs
And that drove our decision to go on this lease program. But again, we kind of made that decision in isolation of other capital budgeting needs. And I think if we had a capital budget, strategic plan, then as these things come up, we will know whether they fit into the strategic plan, and it won't be kind of one-off discussions.
So we could put in there, ensure resources to support the capital needs strategic plan. Right, is that what, you know what I mean? Just so that it's one of the
Which would then
bullets,
dictate that
which
we
would
need
then
to have
make sure
one.
we do it. Right, which would make sure that's our work as the district to provide that falls under that district goal. Right,
You're
Mitch?
telling that if there's a
So, I put short-term
priorities,
budget.
this
But that's
capital
gonna be
item.
So this would be maintain
Oh,
this
okay.
research of financial resources to support policies, and then
It's actually
here
posted on my
would
office.
be
Oh, okay.
provide
That
resources
had like
to
two
support
columns.
the capital
Yeah.
needs strategic plan.
Do you want to see this?
Budget.
No,
Right.
Oh, okay.
I just remembered it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would it be providing resources to support the capital needs strategic plan budget? Or would it be provide support?
So this is a board, provide support.
Right, so, okay. Provide support to the district's capital needs strategic plan budget.
Yeah, don't say too much support, then the board president's to write a check.
Provide support to
You think
the
that?
capital, the
Provide
district.
reasonable.
Capital.
Reasonable, yeah.
I still have my Santa Rita Ranch bus.
That's all you're getting, buddy.
Capital
In
needs.
fact, I might need it back.
Capital needs, right? Capital needs strategic plan budget. Okay.
I gave it to you and you gave it to a student.
What?
Calm down.
You gave away my donation?
It was a very nice donation, and I appreciate it, but better move
Okay, how does this sound? So we have financial strength, maintain sound fiscal stewardship of financial resources consistent with board policies. And these are ideas for our district goal and strategic plan. Clean audit, devise a clear definition of what clean audit means for us. So that's something we can talk about even before we go to help with that. Short-term, long, okay, then the next bullet will say provide support to the district capital needs strategic plan budget. So those will be our two bullets.
And
Yes,
clean audit by definition is clean audit. It means there are no material weaknesses. That is the definition.
okay, so is that our district goal to be zero material weaknesses?
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah. we should
otherwise you're gonna battle of what clean means.
Right. Okay,
I've been through hundreds of federal audits for different agencies. And they always have like a point system, different levels of findings. We're worth so many points. If your material weaknesses were worth like 5 points. Little minor stuff was 1. You had to fall into like a certain, they would tally them all up and you had to fall into a certain category before you got in trouble. You had to keep it below a set. What does ours have to be?
well, remember when
We
we
don't do that.
asked,
It's just, they tell you what it is, you fix it.
Yeah.
Don't let it happen again.
Till next time.
Don't let it happen. And for,
Then you fix it so they don't identify it again the following year.
yeah,
Which they will find again next year because you're halfway through the year when you get your audit.
oh, that's right. So it's kind of like a,
So
It's
you're always
a 2-year
stepping
run.
on the tail end of your jeans, aren't you?
Yes.
Because, Albert, remember when you were in Mama Kivari and what happened with the audit over there?
90-day letter,
But that was based on how many,
extreme negligence.
so extreme negligence, then the district got a
90-day letter to
90-day
correct.
letter stating.
Otherwise, stating everything that needed to be corrected. And if you did not show progress in correcting them, then the state would take over.
So, and when we tried to ask them, remember?
Then it would really get screwed up.
Yeah, remember when we tried to ask them, what is considered, like, if you were to give us a letter grade on how the audit went, and they wouldn't.
It's
wouldn't do it.
it's basically,
They wouldn't do it.
when you're looking at
So-
school audits, it's basically, are we gonna recommend the AG's office give you a 90-day letter, or are you okay? That's, when you get a school audit, that's what it is.
It's either that or that, that's it, that's the only thing they'll do. So maybe,
Well, I mean, they're even worse than a 90-day letter is receivership.
How do you feel?
So they don't even give you the 90-day letter, they just come and take over and fire everyone.
So an actual group of folks show up and say,
Yeah,
Yeah, ADE comes in, they,
ADE and the Auditor General's office says pack your stuff.
Unplug all your shredders.
I'll be one of those branch. I'll call them, I'll take a look.
so, so here's the 3 board goals. Financial strength. What do you guys think? You good?
I think it covers the basics.
And so much more can fit under those.
Yeah, because the other thing is in the recruitment of high and retention of high quality staff. And that's really in a lot of the areas up there. But specifically in the first goal of, I've always felt in some way, shape, or form, we need to financially reward superior teachers.
So we'll say.
Somehow, we've got to recognize that there's some teachers are better than others and they need to be financially rewarded.
Recruitment of staff, financial
Retention of
recognition.
high performing staff.
I think that could fall under, goal 1 and even goal 2.
Yep.
A safe and orderly learning environment is firstly facilitated by a good
Or like you're saying like a retention stipend for high performing staff.
Yeah.
Like when I look at the move on when reading data that we submitted, kinder and 3rd grade students, kinder and 3rd grade teachers knocked that data out of the park for how well our kinder kids did and how our 3rd grade teachers
And they
did.
ought to be rewarded for it.
And so
Uh,
retention or stipend for high performing staff, some type of incentive for.
Maybe it's time to rethink redoing this. This is now 6 years old. Teacher evaluation system.
So we have the same system that's evaluative. What changes is the formula that we plug in how we determine that teacher performance level that gets put in at the end. And we talked about it 2 years ago, remember, about raising the bar? Then COVID hit, and we're like, okay, this is not the year to do it. And then we gave the AZ merit last year, but they said, we're gonna give it, but it's not gonna count anywhere, just for your baseline. So then this year, we said, okay, we're not gonna move the bar, this year, but we are going to move and raise the bar for next year. So then you'll see a difference in that score for teachers where they get, like max points is 4. And so they
Yeah.
received 3.6 this year. But if we raise the bar, they're gonna go from 2.5 to probably 3 points, which will probably move some people from highly effective to effective. The effective teachers might fall to developing.
Okay.
So, but we knew, because we had this conversation about changing the formula, because we can do that piece.
Right.
There's different ways to do it. The evaluation, the Danielson itself is a good evaluation, but what ends up is the growth. So you could tap into what each teacher's individual growth is, and that will overall affect exactly what you're talking about.
Because then we could add,
The ones that are getting these high growth things are gonna see that in their final eval,
They should.
when that individual number is plugged in.
because what we
How do you
would
show
do,
like the social studies and science?
so what happens is, and what we've done collectively across the district is every teacher gets credit, all the reading, the elective teachers, math, social studies and science teachers. That's why we take a school average of the growth, because they get those points. But if we wanted to do additional points for just the reading and the math teachers who are reaching this certain level, and let's say we add 2 points to just them,
That's where it gets tricky.
that's where it gets tricky, because then, but that would be how we could give them an incentive, because
But for map growth, we need to look into including science, so we would have everybody doing science.
but we don't have social studies assessment in NWA math. So that's where we have to talk about how do we give points to,
And then you have your specialty teachers.
and you have your special ed teachers. So,
We would have to come up with.
but it could, yeah, it would be additional to like the overall school mean, and then how do we give the teachers who actually had that individual class success in growth.
And maybe we
percentage.
should hold back a certain percentage of Prop 301 money. So we could do some of those things.
That'll be what our charge would be, is where to free up in the budget the money for that.
Yeah, but that would have to come from the 301 committee with the 301 plan to do that.
Right, and that would take collaboration on our part with the teachers to say,
I mean, we could tell them we would like to see this.
we'd like to see this, and we've been talking about it with them, so it's not gonna be a surprise, because we've talked to our teachers about it.
We talked about this a couple years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
The problem is you just gave them the whole cake, now you say, well, I don't want to give you part of the cake. Right?
Yeah,
I don't know how you address that,
but
but that's
they've already got like so many hoops to jump through to get the 301 money. It's like, we're just taking away a couple hoops and now they're over here.
substituting hoops,
Substituting hoops.
something to think about.
yeah.
But in the end, if our goal is high academic rigor and excellence and growth, the goal is everybody's gonna want to be. I mean, everybody is gonna wanna reach that. Is gonna wanna attain that together as a team, as a group,
Well, every
so.
teacher that we want to put schools, we want to put.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there's probably some out there that don't. Yeah, they're not here, but.
That's when the trash takes itself.
Where were we reading, or we talked about schools that do grade level competitions for meeting and exceeding? Then the whole grade level gets,
Oh, boy.
yeah,
Oh,
so
I
there's,
mean, classes within a grade, or
like, third grade competes with fourth grade
It's like friendly competition.
for friendly
You
competition
look at each
for
other's data. and
okay.
meeting and exceeding standards in your class.
When yeah.
Kickball tournament.
Amazing what the kids do for a pizza party, right?
Yeah, for pizza and EGs.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if we could even think about like the number of companies and people that sponsor things for us, like if we reached out to Baja Sports or to somebody and said, you know what, we'd like to give, even if it's $100 gift card to a teacher or the top achieving teachers in our school, it doesn't have to be tied to something as extreme as our budget right now or the 301, but if we could get some companies to support us and donate,
I think they do.
and the top teacher in each grade level gets $100. You know, when we go to conferences, they love those $100 Visa cards that are being raffled off.
Those are all good things.
Mhm. So that could be something we could look at. So keep throwing out
Well,
some
the
of the.
foundation could kick in.
Oh, see the foundation.
Or
Our
we could do,
foundation.
how about a night and dinner at the Two-Back Resort or something?
Yeah.
One of the other things I thought was intriguing that came out of this webinar is they highly recommended that a board member sit on every committee. So a board member would sit on the curriculum committee, a board member would sit on the finance committee, a board member would sit on the 301 committee.
I think that would probably benefit us more than it would them, because it would give us a better and more intimate understanding of their mindsets and their psyches and like how they're
And this
feeling
year-
about things and how things operate.
So
I
we
didn't even know
will
there were all of
have,
these boards until a few weeks ago.
like, we have a schedule, because all those committees meet once a month. So Deanna, Steve, and I, Albert, we attach ourselves to those committees also. But it would be if you felt like you wanted to attach yourself to anyone or just drop in on one. Some of them are at 7:30 in the morning, some of them are at 3 after school. But that would be a good time to come sit in and listen and support. I would love for one of you to come sit in on the 301 committees. So you can see how the checklist on how they look at what teachers have done, how they determine who hasn't. So that would be good. You could put board attendance in committee meetings. Okay, so I'm going back to our clean audit thought. So as a district goal, when you think about the number of material weaknesses that we had, and we know our goal is 0, right? But what is truly doable to the board? Would it be decreasing them by, I don't know, 3%, 5% a year? If we
You mean
know,
all of the things that they look at, or just the ones that they deem to be material weaknesses?
Material ones.
well, I don't know. That's why I'm trying to think.
Well,
in my
I would
head.
say that we should have an absolute goal of 0 material weakness.
Uh-huh.
Now, all of the other things that, I mean, some of those are duplications and other things. Like if you and Greg wanted to come up and say, you know, okay, we had 45 of these things, and our objective is to cut that in half next year, or something like that.
That's what I
Yeah.
want to say. What is doable
Yeah.
to cut the material weaknesses decrease by half?
I think it would also be to our benefit if you could put a list together, like you said, some things weren't fixed until halfway through the
When
audit
the
year.
expected completion,
So
when you expect it to come off of
anticipate
the
some
audit?
things that we know will be on there because they weren't fixed.
You have to go in a 2-year cycle if you have an audit that splits the school year.
Mhm.
The reality is you have to go in a 2-year cycle,
Yeah.
2-year cycle of improvement.
Well,
Because
that's,
You're not gonna change the second part, even if you've addressed it. It's
Yeah,
there.
yeah, even if you've addressed it during the audit.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
But
they're
we-
still gonna audit that same time period the following year.
It took me 3 years to get stuff off the audit.
Well, that's just the technicalities, that's what I have to do, it's just so, I mean, to be reasonable about it. You can't keep saying, harp on you guys for doing something, that didn't address one, or
but we
already
know,
been fixed.
but we know this year, the material weaknesses that were supposed to be corrected from the year before that were still on the audit because we thought we corrected them, but they weren't the way that the auditors expected. So that still stayed there. So we could somehow.
Well, it was a different material weakness. It went from nothing's been done to it was done incorrectly.
Can't win.
No.
You just do it correctly.
Didn't
Yeah.
you do it the way the county
Problem.
told you to do it or something?
Right the first time.
Like you waited?
I
For it to be
had to talk to the auditors themselves in person to
Yeah.
address it.
Okay, that's good, but that helps, so you could maybe just put, and then like our goal would be to obviously decrease the number of material weaknesses
Yeah, the audit paints the picture, whether we like it or not, it paints the
every year, right?
picture, so that's a big part of
Since
this
it's a
financial.
Yeah, wasn't it just the
we
one?
decrease it by 1/3 every
Remember.
year.
I think it was just the one, not balancing to the county treasurer.
The county
It's not
reconcile.
That's a.
Is there another one? Do you remember another one other than the county reconciliation portion of the audit?
It's updated.
Material weaknesses.
Um,
What was the other one?
right now. The cash reconciliation was one. The other one had to do with, how debt service was reflected, that gave like an $800,000 misinformation on the financial statement.
Okay, sorry, say that again, is that another?
No, we were just talking about, we're going back in our memory trying to remember what the
Oh,
what the
okay.
weaknesses were this year.
So we put under here, just so I'm thinking of a district goal, is to put a list together via a 2-year cycle of improvement monitoring to be reasonable.
Keeping in mind the areas that are already, what would it be, that are already being addressed, but are working their way through the cycle.
I just have a gut feeling, if you two sat down and say, how would we like to do this?
Yeah.
What kind of improvement would we like to see?
Yeah,
And here's what we think it would be a stretch, but achievable.
Okay.
And it'll be acceptable to the board.
okay. Good. So going back to my evaluation, when we talk about measurable objectives, for my performance pay, remember it was a 3% increase in reading and math in the year. And then it was 10% increase in reading and math in our formative assessment, NWEA.
Okay.
So when we talk about a measurable objective for the district and the teachers, I feel like you've already set the parameter for me,
Makes all the sense in the
which
world.
I think would be what could be right, because it was 3% increase in state assessment from year to year in reading and math.
I think it was 3 points.
Well, it was, but it translated to it's 3% of 20 points, the way we wrote it. So, because remember, this was mine that we're gonna look at next week. So when you look at the assessment piece, right, so we talked about 3%, if there's a 3% increase in ELA, then I get 20 points,
There was a 5 in there.
right?
Mhm.
If there's 3% in math, then I get 20 points. If there's a 10% growth in the formative from the pre and the post and ELA, it's 20 points.
Right.
And then it's, again, 10% growth gives you 20 points for math. So is that a good district goal? Should be. The superintendent's goal should match the district's goal,
Should.
right? So,
This is how,
that's what we would put in the district goal, 3% increase of state assessments in ELA and math from year to year. And then we have the 10% growth in formative assessment in pre and post. And so you.
Yeah, again, I think we can, this says 3%. I think it was at least my intent that it would be 3 points. If you go 3%, let's say you've got 40% of your students that are meeting grade level standard in math, 3% would be increasing that by 1.2 points. So it would go from 40 to 41.2, as opposed to 3 points would be 40 to 43.
So we have, yeah, so this year, just so you know, as we looked at preliminary data, because it's still in draft and it's not finalized, the state assessment, we did have a 3% increase in our state assessment in EL8 from last year. We did have, and we had 11% increase in math. So, that's just to give you an idea of where we fell this year. And we're looking right now at analyzing the NWA, the formative for the pre and the post. Because the NWA gives it to you in the RIT and the mean score. So we have to go back and look at actual teacher meeting and exceeding standards in order to translate it to a percent. So that's what we're looking at right now. And typically school goals are written from, that 10%, 3 to 10% growth. But you're right, if we have, if you're at 30, 40% meeting and exceeding, and you're gonna increase by 3%. So we can talk about that also at our retreat. And next week after, or when we meet to go over this for me, then we can better clarify what we want to do as the district goal, okay? Okay, anything else? Are you guys okay with these then? What we can do is type them up and send them to you as a draft. And see if there's any other changes, and then we can, when do we have to upload for the board?
Our meeting's the 13th, not next week.
Right, it's the following Monday, Monday.
On the 13th, so we'll get these typed up, send it to you for a draft, and then we can put them on the board agenda for approval for the next meeting.
What would be your timetable in putting the meat on the bones as far as the metrics that we've
Like I said in my meetings, I'd like to have this, our district goals, and our strategic plan all approved for the July board meeting, so we have it ready to go for August. So that's my plan.
Okay.
And so, we also wanted to make sure for our, next week on the 8th, we are meeting with Generation Network Schools who's been working with us, and this is all the posters and stuff that are up here. And we're doing a lot of the work already for our district goals, our school goals, and then on Thursday, the 9th, we have our administrative team retreat where we're gonna, so we want, the timing, we want to do this first so we could get our school and district goals done by next Wednesday, Thursday, and then I can plug them into the strategic plan with the specifics. And then we'll have the draft of our strategic plan will be ready for our July board retreat is July 11th. So then we can be ready.
That's a third date I've seen.
July,
For the board retreat?
oh wait, our board retreat,
It's July
Because
8th.
it was originally
July
scheduled
8th.
for July 1.
No, it said July 8th according to the board meeting on May 9th. That's what was decided on your
Oh,
future
okay.
business.
July 8th is fine. I just originally had it on July 1 on my calendar.
This June 1 for this.
So that's
Well, I
gonna
had
be
that too.
up at the Santa Rita Experimental Range. They have a conference center.
So we're having, at the Santa Rita Experimental Range, we're having our meetings Wednesday, Thursday. We're gonna see how it goes. We tentatively, well, we reserved it for our board retreat, but we want to make sure that, you know, the air is working well and that it's conducive to what we need.
Is that the one in Fox Canyon?
It's up on Santa Rita, and what we will do is meet here and we'll drive up together, because it's like a 15-minute drive and it's dirt road, but I think it's a pretty neat place. We drove up there and took pictures and stuff, so. So then, my plan is to have the draft to you before our retreat on that Friday, and then we can make, vote on it on July 11th. And have it ready to go.
One of the other things, just that's crossing my mind lately is, it would be great, and I understand some of this is just not possible because you don't get the information necessarily on a timely basis. But on stuff that really entails a lot of research on our part, to maybe get something as an informational item at a board meeting that will be discussed and set up for action at the next board meeting. And some of the things I'm thinking about with the gifted scope and sequence, that thing, the benefit package was just massive, and here you go, let's, does it have your approval? And if you're able to do that as an informational item on the month before, that would give us a chance to review that in detail, get questions answered, and then it's set up as an action item for the following month.
We typically did that historically. We always had a month prior.
Okay.
When I first came on the board, that was standard procedure.
Did they get the copy of the 301 proposal?
No,
But it's on our board.
it'll be for Tuesday, it'll go out with the agenda.
So that would be something, if we could send that to
Go ahead and
them
send it today.
now, we can send it
That'd
to
be
you
great.
today, and that way you'll have a chance
That'd be
to
great.
mull it over before the Tuesday board meeting. Is that the only major doc that's on there?
I believe so.
Because we'll go into executive session to talk about my performance pay, and then come out, and it'll be an item for approval based on what you decided in executive. I think that's the only report, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the draft. A lot of it's under consent, it's like hiring.
We have like our new teachers.
Yeah, we
being
just
hired.
have school safety as an item. Climate surveys, we'll go over those. The Arizona Academic Standard Assessment results, 301 plan, and then the governing board calendar that was presented today.
Okay,
Those are the only items besides the consent agenda.
okay, good. So we'll get that 301 proposal out that the teachers worked on, and then we'll be ready.
Great.
Okay, good. Mr. President, are we ready to adjourn?
I believe so. You guys got that email from Monica on upcoming events?
Yes, and I want to thank Monica for her service to all of us.
Well, thank you all for having
You're
me.
here.
We will miss you.
Appreciate it. Wait,
Best wishes to you.
thank you.
Yeah. Next week?
Tuesday will be my last day.
I object.
I don't remember approving that.
Yeah,
No, not being asked, but, yeah. Or like told for them.
Tuesday's her last day, but she is going to be working and training the new person that hopefully will have someone for board approval on the 13th, but we're running out of time and we don't have any
Now you better fire up the pen.
interested parties, so.
Mr. Clerk.
Yeah, yeah. You had fun putting together the minutes.
I like it, yeah. You really liked doing it last time.
Yeah. You were fortunate there wasn't stuff written on the back and up the side and down the.
Probably some stuff on the
There
wall.
might have been a couple teardrops.
All right. Now we are adjourned.
A couple of chocolate smudges on a few of them.
Shelley, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, we'll talk soon. So if you guys can think of anybody that would be a good
We have that
admin,
No worries. It's advertised.
it's on the website, yeah, it's advertised, we don't really have anybody.
What's the pay? Is it worth the transition? One of the others?
It's big bucks.
Greg, I really don't, he doesn't really want you here 12 months.
You don't want to hear 12 months?
Yeah.
Fine. Stash you. I want you to hear 12 months. I want you to hear 12 months.
Yeah, we're trying to think of,
We've never said it.
You almost need somebody that has that.
How many buses are we putting up for auction?
We have not had that
We haven't had that
discussion.
discussion yet. My thought, I want to keep 5 between a spare sped unit and then 4 backups.
What do you mean?
Which would eliminate,
Would you have the
we have 2 in the back. Would eliminate putting it to auction probably 4 to 5 after I sit down with Greg.
Can we put those poor vans from my era to rest on back here? Starting to grow plans up on this.
Well, yeah. I mean, that is the,
It's all recycling. Yep.
Yeah, well, Mother Nature's taking care of it pretty quick.
we're trying to turn them into greenhouse planners.
This might not be a legal discussion.
let